Imagine a volcano so big it kills everyone, even people as far away as Alaska or Australia. In fact, this volcano would be so deadly it kills everyone on Earth. Well, maybe not everyone. If you're a survivor of the initial blast and subsequent nuclear winter, you have a chance of living. You will need to immediately head underground, preferably into an already dug deep shelter, or perhaps a subway tunnel or something similar. Depending on where you are, if you're in a city, getting to your basement may be preferable, but only if it's deep enough. The good news is that the airburst will likely vaporize the ground above your shelter, creating an artificial cave. The bad news is that if there was anyone within 30 miles of the explosion, they are now dead. And if there were people between 60 and 100 miles away, they are now probably dead too. Assuming you survived the initial blast, the next challenge is survival of the nuclear winter. The blast will likely cause a nuclear winter which will kill most of humanity. Those who survive will need to deal with the lack of food, water, and sunlight for months. Even worse, if you were unfortunate enough to be close to the supervolcano when it blew up, you may have been knocked out for hours, days, or even weeks due to the thermal radiation and EMP blast. When you wake up, you will realize that no one is around. There will be no cars on the roads. Food will be scarce and water will be scarce. However, if you had a car close by, you can start driving around, scavenging for food and supplies until the cold kills you, your engine runs out of gas, or you find someone else who is still alive and wants to kill you. If you don't have a vehicle, you may want to try hiking to a populated area. But don't be surprised if you don't find anyone for weeks or months. One thing to keep in mind is that the blast may have destroyed many buildings, but others may remain intact. Some may even still have food inside, and although the shelves will likely be bare, anything left outside will likely be picked over by others who are desperate for food. But there is nothing more desolate than empty shelves. After a few weeks or months, you may hear other survivors and begin to wonder if humanity has finally begun to rebuild. However, you should exercise extreme caution because some survivors may not be friendly. After all, everyone is desperate for food and water and won't think twice about killing you for a can of beans. Others, however, may want to team up and work together to rebuild society. Unfortunately, life after the blast will be extremely difficult. Plants will not grow for months and even years afterwards. This means that hunting and fishing will be the only way to obtain food. Also, the sun will be blocked by ash for months, meaning that daylight hours will be shorter and temperatures will be colder than normal. Although the core of the Earth is hot, the surface will become an ice cube. For this reason, you must stay active to generate body heat. Staying warm will be crucial for your survival during the nuclear winter. A hat, scarf, and gloves will help prevent heat loss through the skin, and a thick coat will help prevent heat loss through the body. If not, you will need to use whatever materials are available to stay warm, whether it's leaves, sticks, grass, or rocks. Just kidding, rocks won't help you stay warm. One thing that will help you survive the nuclear winter is knowing how to build a makeshift shelter. You can also use what remains of buildings. Just be careful of collapsing walls and toxic dust. Unless you have food and water stored away, you may need to resort to collecting rainwater, snow, or dew. It's best to boil water before drinking it, but you will need a fire to do that. However, you can use a ferrocerium flint and steel, bow drill, bamboo, and fire saw to start a fire. You may also want to consider fishing or hunting for food. If you can catch fish or hunt animals, you will have a reliable source of protein. If you're outdoors, you'll need to find shelter from the wind, rain, and snow. In addition, you'll need to stay warm and dry. Otherwise, you risk hypothermia and other health problems. But what happens if you choose not to live in a shelter? What would your day-to-day life look like? You could also try growing your own food in a small garden. At night, you would need to worry about staying warm and protecting yourself from wild animals. As time goes on, you may come across other survivors, and you'll need to decide whether or not to trust them. Overall, life after a supervolcanic eruption would be challenging, but not impossible. With careful planning and preparation, you may just be able to survive the nuclear winter and emerge on the other side. But what exactly is a supervolcano? The term supervolcano refers to a volcano that has had an extremely large eruption, releasing more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. The largest known supereruption occurred in Indonesia in 1815, when Mount Tambora erupted. The eruption was so massive that it caused the year without a summer in 1816. The following summer was the coldest on record, and widespread crop failures and starvation resulted. Another well-known supereruption occurred in 1980 in the United States when Mount Helens erupted. The eruption was the most violent in U.S. history, releasing 500 times more material than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. Supervolcanic eruptions can have both local and global effects. Locally, they can cause widespread devastation, destroying entire cities and landscapes. Globally, they can trigger climate change, blocking the sun and causing temperatures to drop significantly. The Yellowstone supervolcano in the United States is one of the most active supervolcanoes in the world. It has had 3 major eruptions in the past 2 million years, and scientists believe it is overdue for its next eruption. When Yellowstone erupts, it will release an amount of ash that can bury the entire United States under several inches of debris. And here's why. An eruption at Yellowstone National Park could spread ash and fine particles across much of the western half of the country. Ash and fine particle matter could also be lofted into the upper atmosphere and potentially encircle the globe. The real damage from a Yellowstone eruption would come from the collapse of the massive caldera. Millions of tons of rock and soil would rush into the depression left by the receding magma, generating enormous mud flows called debris flows. Debris flows would race across the surrounding lowlands, burying everything in their path. Hot flows of gas and ash would race down the valleys, draining out onto the plains. So how do scientists measure a volcano's explosivity? They use the Volcanic Explosivity Index, also known as the VEI. The index measures the magnitude of volcanic eruptions based on 8 different factors, including the eruption height, volume of material ejected, and the duration of the eruption. The higher the VEI, the more explosive the eruption. For example, the 1980 eruption of Mount Helens had a VEI of 5. This was the most violent eruption in U.S. history and released 500 times more material than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. On the other hand, the 1815 eruption of Mount Tambora had a VEI of 7. This was the largest eruption in recorded history and caused the year without a summer in 1816. So what would happen if a supervolcano like Mount Tambora erupted today? Well, we can't say for sure, but it would certainly be devastating. The eruption would likely cause widespread devastation and loss of life. The ash and debris would likely block out the sun, causing global temperatures to plummet. In addition to the immediate devastation, the long-term effects of such an eruption would likely be felt for years, if not decades. The global economy would likely collapse, and food shortages and disease would likely follow. So while it's unlikely that a supervolcano will erupt anytime soon, it's important to be prepared in case one does. What would you do if a supervolcano erupted near you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one.